Greetings and welcome back to the first in a series of guides for the game Mass Effect Andromeda Multiplayer. Many of you might know me or recognize me from back in the day, which is to say ME3, Mass Effect 3 Multiplayer. My name is Stardusk. I used to produce guides back in the day on a fairly regular basis in addition to gameplay. And what I'm going to do here, for those of you who are new or those of you who have forgotten, is describe what I'm going to do with the guides in general, as well as the first kit I'm going to be addressing here, which is a fully maxed out human-female Sentinel. Well, could be the male as well, it's irrelevant. In any event, gameplay will be included in separate videos because the purpose of these guides is to guide, to be descriptive, to explain things so people understand. What I'm not going to do in these guides is explain every little game mechanic, which is to say, there is some expectation of some familiarity with the game of Mass Effect Multiplayer, Mass Effect Andromeda Multiplayer, and I would assume that many people are, I guess, Mass Effect veterans, the people who are going to check this video out as well as future videos. I plan to be fairly systematic, which is to say I do plan on covering virtually every kit, although those of you who might remember, Infiltrators probably will be last. But I decided to start with the human Sentinel because it's a common, everyone will get access to it relatively quickly and probably can get a maxed out, that is in terms of level 10 cards wise Sentinel for maximum customization, in addition to maxing out the kit or the character herself. Pardon me. Now I also have a maxed out Turian soldier, maxed out Krogan mercenary, and maxed out Krogan engineer. And I'll be covering all of those as well. As I said, I want to start with something that is fairly basic but pretty interesting. So with that said, I'm going to launch into it. Now, because this is the very first guide, I think the best way to approach this is to offer some general tips and points of view. Now, in her case, this is tech armor, but I think as most of us are just beginning this game, the best way to approach this is to invest in your health and shields. Now, why do I say this? Well, I quickly attempted to graduate to gold as soon as possible. I still do some of these Apex missions in order to get the mission funds, which are sometimes bronze or silver, but generally speaking, I only play in gold now because I have decent equipment. Now, considering that, and this is just my recommendation, nothing I'm saying here is prescriptive. This is not thou must, but rather thou could benefit from this. That investing in this, once you have your maxed out character, which is a level 1 character I'm referring to with 10 cards, you can fully fill the bottom portion of anything. So this is general advice, because you want that survivability. Gold is not tremendously difficult, although of course it depends on whether you have a full team or not, and the nature of the match you're engaging in. I mean, there are certain matches for the mission funds which reduce your damage or increase your damage or what have you. But they do pack a punch, the enemies, particularly enemies that fire lasers, such as the remnants, and they can shred your shields really easily. So in terms of hierarchy and matter of progression, and this is my personal preference, once again not prescriptive, but I would strongly recommend speccing out once you've maxed out your character. That's your level 1 character with 10 cards, which means you can fully fill in this portion of your character tree. And in the case of the human Sentinel, it is tech armor. Now, tech armor is, interestingly enough, no longer an activated ability. I find this to be quite a relief because passive abilities are always, well, more manageable. You don't have to worry about things. So we're going to start with this, and we will proceed along the other parts of the tree of the human Sentinel. This is obviously self-explanatory. Now, as far as efficiency is concerned, since most of us are trying to level up and get our kits up to 20 so we can really benefit from those bonus stats and just sort of fully enjoy our experience, I'm mostly about the survivability. No doubt this will all be subject to change as I explore other builds, and maybe they'll change things or stats, but I really am not terribly interested in melee at the moment. So for rank 4, I went into the extra damage resistance because you want survivability. For rank 5, I went for, well, more damage resistance. The reasons for this are pretty simple. Well, weight capacity, I tend to run the equalizer. I'll talk a little bit about weapon setups for the human Sentinel in a bit, but I'm not interested in melee damage, and the weight capacity is relevant because I'm running around with a pretty light weapon to begin with. Extra weapon accuracy while moving. I mean, this is all nice, but as you'll see, this is very much a power-oriented human Sentinel. We could swap it up in the future, but here we go, more damage resistance. And likewise, this melee doesn't interest me here. I'm interested in better shield regeneration and better regen on the delay. So that's pretty straightforward. Just max out the top tree because, well, that's going to provide the most benefits, I think, as far as survivability is concerned. Now, the other stuff in order of progression is really a matter of taste, I think, or preference. I'm a big fan of maxing out passives as quickly as possible because you don't need to actively manage them and they directly benefit you. So this is all self-explanatory, and once again, this is a power-oriented build. Of course, you could spec in a weapon, but I'm going for the power damage here. Now, for rank 5, it's kind of a toss-up. It's a bit difficult, but the fact of the matter is, how you're not a you don't have any special benefits in terms of damage resistance when you're hovering as this particular kit. So extra hover duration and extra weapon accuracy is not particularly relevant. And plus, you're going to be close. As I upload gameplay videos in the future, you'll see I play the Sentinel very much in a CQC fashion. So it's not very relevant. So it's always good to have headshot damage or weak point damage bonuses, as well as extra spare ammo depending on the weapon you're running. And finally for 6, I forego the weapon bonuses because this is a power specialist, and you get the plus 15% power damage, better recharge, as well as cell capacities. Energy drain is the next way I sort of proceeded. Energy drain would be the next thing I would try to maximize after maxing out the passives. Self-explanatory. Now, you could say, well, more shields are stored. That's great. But in my humble opinion, I do think that having better recharge, being able to use an ability that could potentially save your life in a very close situation, cutting it close with that is much more useful than having more shields restored, because they're going to shred your shields anyway, and you want to have that power, your energy drain, back up as soon as possible. So this is my view on this. Let's take rank 4 recharge speed. Now, 5 is a bit tricky, but I'll tell you why I chose 5, the upper portion of 5 as opposed to the bottom portion. Now, the reason for this is, sure, there's an impact radius that could be useful, but you're not always going to be in a situation with multiple enemies. On the other hand, this has an over-the-time shields restore function, which is useful whether you're dealing with multiple enemies or just a single enemy, especially as you're sort of hopping around, vaulting around corners, and you're trying to survive. You're going to be taking a lot of damage on gold, and I just found this personally, after having respec'd this and tested out both builds, to be more useful, the more useful variant. Finally, for rank 6, it is really, for me, just not even a question. The upper portion for more damage versus shields and more damage versus synthetics. Now, why did I forego the allies' shields restored? Well, that's pretty obvious. As many of you already know, you're going to be pugging quite a bit, that's pickup games, and you're going to be dealing with a lot of incompetent people, people with no game knowledge, people who don't stick together. I mean, maybe if you're working with friends, you're going to be together much more often, but generally speaking, you're going to be on your own, and people are not going to be together. So having something that's beneficial to allies is much more situational, whereas this is just much more universal, which is why I chose this. So I'll get to barricade last. I have some special thoughts on that. And finally, throw would be the last thing you're going to spec. So Damage and force, self-explanatory, I think, because once again, you want to eliminate targets as quickly as possible. I think that's more useful, especially against single targets. Obviously, one target down, move on to the next. Duration versus recharge speed. For me, recharge speed is just much more important. Future builds might reconsider this position, but I just want to use my abilities as often as possible. And yeah, then we have plus 30% combo detonation speed, plus 25% recharge speed. That's pretty obvious, because with this build, what you're going to be doing quite a bit is using this ability. I should have mentioned this, that the energy drain primes the enemy target for combo detonations. This is why this is such an important ability versus this. Once again, because this just doesn't give you that benefit. And once this is primed, you will use your throw to hit it, and you will get a tech explosion, an electricity, a lightning explosion, which will create an electric field that will zap anyone who enters at least once, at least of the sort of non-giant enemies. So yeah, that's what you want there. Recharge speed, and finally the swift detonation. I'll benefit from this. Now, this is reflective of my own playstyle, so Barricade is actually arguably the most useful thing in the game to have at only 1 point. And this is because, pardon me, you can still benefit from Barricade without having to invest heavily into it. Now, you could go full throttle, but what's the point? I mean, if you're always on the move, as I tend to be playing this particular kit, you're not going to be camping behind a barricade. Maybe there'll be some cap strategy eventually. Instead, you just need one of these. You already get an extra power cell from your passive, so you have 3 of them. And so Barricade becomes incredibly useful. For example, if a Hydra is targeting you and you're out in the open, there's no way you can get away, as this particular kit, drop the barricade, it will protect you. If a fallen ally needs reviving and they're attacking you from a certain direction, there's a curvature to it as well, you'll get some pretty good cover virtually all around, unless they're behind you. And so you can rev your fallen comrade without any problems, and you can both get out of there on time. So I think Barricade in many ways is the most useful ability to have in only 1 point, and thus you have the build for the human Sentinel, human female Sentinel in this case. Very, very effective in CQC, I think. It's really sort of a run and gun build, which is the way I like to play it, at least at the moment, and I hope that was helpful. Now, moving on to weapons, well, I don't know. I'll be making a separate video covering weapons, but the fact of the matter is that for casters, which is to say tech specialist, biotic specialist, or a combination of the two in the case of the Sentinel, there really is no better weapon to use than the Equalizer. It does really good damage, it has a good rate of fire, it has a large clip, and it's super, super light. And in between you using your abilities, you can just fire it off, fire it off, fire it off. I would recommend putting the pistol barrel on, obviously for more damage, and the extended magazine for more damage. And it's very rare that you're going to actually reach the point with this gun of overheating. I mean, you would have to continually fire, because you're going to be using your abilities quite frequently. You're going to be ducking the cover, so it really shouldn't be that much of an issue. So it is, hands down, I think, one of the best weapons in the game. Some tips or pointers if you've not used this yet. It has a limited range, which is to say, it's not that the accuracy decreases over range, but rather it just disappears. Up to a certain range, I would say, based on my observations, and I haven't measured this specifically or precisely, about to 10 to 15 meters, somewhere after 10 or 15 meters, you no longer do damage with this. But as you're a running, gunning build here, this doesn't really matter. You're going to be up in their face pretty often, and you're going to be using this excessively. So, great gun, the best gun. There are alternatives, of course. You could use the Hurricane, but the benefit of this is you're not going to run out of ammo, so you never need to really go back to the ammo crate. Maybe if you want to recharge your power cells for Barricade, but not essential, I think. But the Hurricane could be good. I want to make a separate video on this stuff, but the Eagle is a terrible weapon. They need to buff it. This is not a good weapon either. This Roserad, it's a sort of gimmicky weapon. This is not a good weapon. Very slow fire, one shot, and doesn't really justify the damage just for one shot. The Hornet actually is not too bad, and whilst I wouldn't use it in lieu of the Equalizer, it does have very good range. If you can get nice headshots even at 30 meters with it. The Scorpion is okay, and you can try it out. And the Talon is another good choice, as well as the Charger. The Charger is actually not too bad considering it's a common. All in all, not too bad. But any of these are possibilities, although I think of the ones I've mentioned, the Talon and the Equalizer are probably best, followed by the Hornet. Anyway, that would cover the weapons. And for all the pistols, I would recommend the damage barrel and the extended magazine. Now, in terms of the gear you want to use, the boosters, I would suggest, if you're not level 20, this is a universal, taking advantage of this new thing, this experience enhancer, because you want to get your character to level 20 as quickly as possible. And the other one is just completely up to you. I mean, you could take a pistol damage enhancer, you could take a power recharge, whatever. That's completely up to you. And it really depends on the mission, obviously. And yeah, the color scheme is up to you as well. But I think more or less I've covered everything. Equipment, well, I'm using the Juggernaut shield. I sort of was grinding for that. Very useful. Little extra shields and in the occasional melee. Even though this is a melee build, melee can on occasion be useful for finishing enemies off, so pretty nice addition. And I think I've covered all the basics. And once again, there will be gameplay in the future, but for the time being, what I want to make these guides to be essentially descriptive and instructive rather than showing everything off. I will be showing things off in the future, but for now, this is the guide, Stardust Guide to the Human Sentinel. Always subject to revisions in the future, of course, or different builds, but for now this is how I'm running it, and I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoy this, and if you haven't subbed to me, then sub for more videos of this sort, and I will check you out later. Enjoy, and take care. Bye-bye.